there, my name is Sheila, and today, for My Story Animated, I'm going to tell you the confusing story of how I got abducted by a billionaire. It all started one day when I was coming out of school. As usual, I saw all my classmates with their expensive backpacks getting inside their fancy cars. Many of them even had a chauffeur. As I walked past them on my way to the bus stop, I could always hear their laughs as they gossiped behind my back. I'm 13 years old and never had any family other than my mom, and she passed away 3 years ago. We never had money, but my mom taught me that the only thing no one would ever take away from me was knowledge. So I studied hard all my life, and that's how I got a scholarship to this fancy school. I was walking to the bus stop. There was a restaurant on that street, and I always smelled the coffee and the cookies. My stomach rumbled. It made me so hungry, but I didn't have money to buy any of that. As I continued walking, I saw a little kitten crossing the street. Cars passed just inches away from it. The kitten crossed to the other side, and I decided to follow it to make sure it was safe. I followed it for a couple of blocks until it turned into an alley and hid inside a trash bin. Well, I thought at least it would be safe there, so I turned around to leave. And that's when I saw a black car parked at the end of the alley. There was a man outside leaning against the car, dressed as a chauffeur. And inside, on the back seat, I saw a man and a woman kissing. I learned to mind my own business a long time ago, so I kept on walking. I arrived at the bus stop and, after a moment, the car appeared at full speed and stopped abruptly inches away from me. I realized it was the same car as before, just seconds before I heard a door opening and someone pushing me inside onto the back seat. As the car sped up again, I looked at the man sitting next to me. It was actually a handsome older man, around 40 I guessed. He looked at me seriously, but his gaze looked tired and lost. It didn't make me scared, he was somewhat mysterious. And then he asked sharply, "What do you want?" And that brought me back to reality. "I don't understand," I said. It was true. "What do you want in exchange for keeping the secret?" he asked. "What secret?" I asked. He got closer to me and scanned me from head to toes. "I see," he said. "I know this little game," he added. And then he looked at the driver and shouted, "Perkins, to the mall!" I didn't want to ask any more questions, but that didn't mean I didn't have them. Who was this man? Who did he think I was? What secret was he talking about? Suddenly, the car stopped, and the chauffeur opened the door and pulled me out. The hand of the handsome man appeared from inside the car with a credit card in it. "Get her whatever she wants," he said. The chauffeur grabbed the card and took me inside the mall by the arm. And as I stepped in, my mind went blank. I had never been inside a place this big. Lights, shops, people coming and going, playrooms. This had to be heaven, and I had to be dead. But the chauffeur was still pushing me, so I pulled my arm away and told him to stop. He looked at me and said, Well, what?" I asked. "What do you want?" he asked. "I don't understand," I said. It was true, again. And he said, "It's not the first time we do this. The boss knows what you all girls want for the silence." The boss? The silence? Who were these people? I had no idea, and things were happening really fast. But I wasn't stupid, and I wasn't going to let my only chance get away. I didn't want to spend a second, so I went directly to the bookstore. I always had to borrow the books from school from the public library, so this was my chance to get my own. The man paid, and we went back outside. The handsome man from the car rolled down the window and said, "Are we good?" I nodded, even though I had no idea what just happened, as I embraced the bag with my new books. And he left. As I was walking back to the bus stop, I didn't think about the bizarre situation I just lived, but the fact that for the first time in my life, I had new books. And then I heard it again. The car was coming back towards me. "You have got to be kidding me!" The chauffeur pulled me back inside the car, and the boss asked, annoyed, "Is this a joke? You spent $200 on books?" $200? I asked. "I didn't know they were so expensive. I'm sorry," I said, and offered the books back to him. But he just stayed there and looked at me. Then he looked at the driver and back at me. "Take us back to the mall, Perkins," he shouted. Then he got really close to me and said, "Okay, this is how it's going to be. We're going to go inside the mall again, and you're going to spend real money on real things. You hear me?" I couldn't understand why he meant it as a threat, but I nodded in silence. At least I got to keep my new books. As we arrived back at the mall, we got out of the car. He took the books away from me, threw them inside the car, and said, "Leave them. You'll get them later." We went back inside the mall, and again I was amazed by the amount of information and different noises. He took me directly to the jewelry store and said, "Pick." He sounded like he was in a hurry, but I was definitely not going to choose anything from that store. I looked at those expensive things as they were glowing, but did not dare to touch any. "What is it?" the man said impatiently. I sighed and answered, "I live in a foster home and share my room with 7 other orphans. There's no chance any of this will survive there." The man took a step back and scanned me again. "I don't understand," he said. I assumed he was referring to the school uniform. How could an orphan pay for that fancy school? My mom said that knowledge was something no one would ever take away from me, so she told me to study as hard as I could. I have a scholarship. I said. Wise woman, he said, and then added, still, there must be something you want. Well, honestly, I'm a bit hungry, and I've never seen this many options before, I said as we entered the food court. What do you want to eat? He asked. I didn't have any idea what to choose. I knew nothing about this food, so I just said, I will eat whatever you choose. A tiny smile appeared on his face. It was imperceptible. He walked to a specific place and said, here. I had trouble reading the sign. Shawarma? I said. Best in town, he added. I smiled as I saw him eating that strange food. He didn't look at all like that angry man from before, and he was right. The food was amazing. After we finished, we continued to walk through the mall. I was stunned with all that merchandise in the different stores. We passed in front of a place that had neon lights everywhere, and the music sounded loud. There were mostly kids inside. They all looked like they were having fun. What's this? I asked. You've never seen a video game salon before? He replied. I denied in silence, still dazzled with all that. How do you play this? I asked. He looked around and hesitated. Then he said, I don't know. We got inside. He bought some special coins to put in the machines and gave them to me. I walked to the first game I saw. It was a shooting game. I put the coins in the machine and lifted the gun. He looked at me in silence. But a few moments later, as he saw how much I sucked at the game, he almost ripped the gun out of my hand and said, No, you're missing everything. He then started to shoot at everything with an ability that was not human. I stood there watching him play. It was so much fun. This was in fact a very strange man. After a while, the screen showed the words, Congratulations, you've won, and he gave the gun back to me. That's how it's done, he said. I looked at the screen and said, Look, 2 players. He hesitated again, but then agreed. We started playing the game together, and we lost track of time. You're getting really good at this, he said. After we won a hard fight against the opponent, we even high-fived. He continued to buy coins, and we were there for a couple of hours. When we left the mall, it was already dark. Well, I said, thank you for this day. I have to go. But he got instantly serious. Wait, he said. I'll take you home. I got in the car and hugged my books again. He looked at me and said, Your mother really was a wise woman. When I got out of the car and he left, I thought I had dreamt it all. What a strange day. No one would believe me if I told them. I couldn't sleep much that night, so I used the time to study for the upcoming test the next day with my new books. As we were doing the exam, I saw that my classmate Tanya was having problems with it. She was writing things and erasing them many times. We were close to the end of the period, so I got closer to her and let her copy from my exam. When we got out, she came to me and thanked me. We walked together to the cafeteria talking, but when we arrived, Andrea, the popular girl in my class, stood in front of us and looked at Tanya with disapproving eyes. I looked to the floor, ashamed and somehow scared of Andrea. Are you coming to the party tonight? Andrea asked Tanya. I don't know, she replied. Are you coming, Sheila? I looked up puzzled. No one ever invited me to those fancy parties. And as I looked at Andrea, I could tell she was not happy with the idea. Sorry, I have to study, I said. And Andrea said, See, she's not interested in hanging with us. She's a smart girl. But Tanya said, She is smart and she saved my life today. I think I'll study tonight too. Andrea's jaw dropped. She was clearly indignated. She took my new books away from me and said, Oh, right. Smart Sheila and her new books. I wonder where you got the money to buy them. Andrea, stop it, Tanya said. She took the books from her and gave them back to me. Why are you being such a jerk? She added. I was amazed at how Tanya stood up for me. I was such a chicken. I could never stand up for myself. But Andrea took it even further. She grabbed my shirt and ripped its pocket. I was in so much trouble now. I didn't have the money to buy a new shirt. I rushed to the bathroom to cry. Tanya got inside after me and told me not to pay attention to her. She said that Andrea was miserable and that I didn't deserve what she was doing. As I was walking to the bus stop after school, the handsome old man stopped by with his fancy car. I was crying and I hated when other people saw me cry. He realized anyway and asked me what was wrong. Damn it. I tried to cover my face, but he got out of the car and grabbed me by my shoulders. He looked at my ripped shirt. What happened? He said. Nothing, I slipped. I lied. I've heard that one before, he said, and added, You want to shoot some people? I looked at him and smiled. Absolutely, I said. We went to the mall and the man bought a lot of coins. We went back to the shooting game and played for hours. I hadn't noticed how good it was to release stress. I was having fun for the first time in my life and I didn't even know the man's name. We became so skilled at that game that we even started to have an audience. Everyone cheered and clapped as we passed levels and got the top record. And then we went to eat shawarma. I laughed as I told him I felt tired, like it had been me running through the minefields and not the game characters. He smiled for a second, but then said, Are you going to tell me what happened today now? I sighed as I remembered Andrea. She was a horrible person. There's a girl in my class who makes my life a living hell, I said. Why? He asked. But I looked at him with irony and said, You really have to ask? Because I'm poor, of course. And what did you do? He asked. But I replied, there's nothing I can do. I can lose my scholarship if I get in trouble. But to my surprise, he said, that's the best lie I've heard this year. I'm not lying, I replied. But he looked at me intensely and said, if you don't stand up for yourself, no one will. When I was young, I was the smallest in my class, and I was vulnerable and shy. Everyone made fun of me, and it only ended when I started defending myself. Trust me on this. You have to stand up for yourself, or you will get walked all over. I stood silent. I couldn't imagine this powerful man as a shy kid. I nodded, and then he took me back home. I was still a bit scared as I saw Andrea in school the next day, but when she started to make fun of me at the cafeteria in front of everyone, I thought about the man's advice. I stood up and went straight to her table to confront her. She got up and told me to go away, but instead, I took her orange juice and dumped it on her head. She started to scream and tried to grab my hair, but I dodged her and grabbed hers instead. I pushed her head to the table and told her to stop messing with me. Then I let her go. She stood up, looked at me, but said nothing. She turned around and rushed out of the cafeteria. All the kids there started to clap their hands. I felt relieved, but it didn't last long. A teacher got inside the cafeteria and sent me to the principal's office. I was in so much trouble, but against all odds, I felt good. The man was right. This had to end, and I was ready to face the consequences. As I got to the principal's office, Andrea was already there, waiting too, drenched in orange juice. The principal called us both inside his office and demanded an explanation. But before any of us could speak, I heard noises outside the office. And when the door opened, I saw the last person I could have imagined there. It was the handsome rich man. Andrea looked up too and sighed as she saw him. They exchanged glances for a moment, and I realized at that precise moment, he was Andrea's father. Mr. Anderson, please come in, the principal said. But when he looked at me, he frowned. I denied in silence. He looked at Andrea and then back at me, and I swear I saw him trying to hide a smile. The principal explained the situation, and he told Andrea's father that if he wanted to kick me out of school, he could certainly do it. There's no need to do that, he answered. But the spoiled Andrea complained. Shut up, Andrea, her father said, and added, you probably had it coming. Get out of here. Tell Perkins to drive you home. Andrea was about to say something, but he looked at her menacing. She gave me one of her killing looks and then left. Then he told the principal that it was okay, that I was probably under a lot of stress. But I didn't like this at all. I was so angry at him. He was a hypocrite. He was Andrea's father. I stood up and said, I don't need you to defend me. I must stand up for myself, remember? The man stood silent, surprised. I looked at the principal and said, I'm sorry for what I did. I take full responsibility. Andrea had been bothering me for years and I got fed up, but I understand this wasn't the best way to react. Do with me whatever you think is right. Excuse me. And I left. I went to my locker and grabbed my new books. If I was going to be kicked out of school, at least I would take them with me. I walked to the bus stop crying. I didn't want to see the man, but I kind of hoped he would appear, but he didn't. I let 3 buses pass, but he never showed up. I wanted to see him. I demanded an explanation, but when the 4th bus came, I got in and went home feeling like the loneliest person in the world. I didn't get much sleep that night, and when I woke up the next morning, I felt terribly sick. Perhaps it was me being a chicken again. I didn't want to go back to school ever again. The director of the foster home called the school and told them I was sick. I stayed home for the next 3 days, wondering if I had dreamt everything after all. Andrea's father seemed like 2 completely different men. He was so kind with me and so mean to his own daughter. I couldn't understand. On the 3rd day, they told me I had a visitor. When I got up to see who it was, I found Mr. Anderson at the door. I was still mad at him, but I was relieved to see him, I have to admit. We went to the garden and sat on a bench. He told me he was sorry for not coming to see me sooner. He wanted to make some arrangements first. What arrangements? I asked, and he said, adoption arrangements. What? I looked at him in silence. I was stunned. He said, you don't need the scholarship anymore. If you agree, of course. I thought for a moment. I don't want to be Andrea's sister, I said. Well, perhaps I was being overdramatic. I know, but he laughed. I said, don't laugh. I'm still mad at you. You can't solve everything with money. He got instantly serious and said, I know. I had a talk with Andrea last night. I didn't realize what a terrible father I'd been until I met you. You reminded me of what having a good time means, and I felt guilty that I wasn't sharing that with her. You taught me what it means to be a father, and I want to continue doing it with both of you. Wow, the man gave really good speeches. I smiled. I don't even know your full name, I said. And he answered, and I don't know yours, but we have the rest of our lives to get to know each other.
Hi, I'm Amika from Houston. Before you listen to my story, please like and subscribe. My dad left us when I was 5. Mom took up a job in a restaurant and was always working hard for us. I felt really bad, so I decided I was going to get us a dad again. One day when I was in the restaurant, a boy my age came there with his father. I saw the man holding his son's hand, laughing and giving high fives. I wanted him to be my dad. When he went to the washroom, I walked up to the boy who was eating ice cream. Hey, you like that ice cream? Wanna have more? My mom works here, so I'll give it to you for free. But can you give me your dad instead? The little devil yelled. Mom rushed in, and so did the man. Mom then apologized and took me to the kitchen. What was that, Amy? Just go get your things. We're going home. Years passed, but my mission of finding a new dad never stopped. One day, I thought of doing something big. I told Mom I'll take charge of distributing the menu cards. I went from table to table giving the cards. But not just that. I whispered something to every man I saw. Please, marry my mommy. She's over there, the tall, cute one. Some smiled, some ignored, but I didn't stop. There was a big crowd for lunch, and I went to a rich-looking man and said the same. But he lost it. He immediately called the manager and complained about Mom and me. And then everybody else joined him. Yeah, this girl asked me the same stupid thing. I'm married. We're leaving. Me too. This place is crazy. What a mess. Mom got fired instantly, and she went bonkers at me. Enough, Amy. Just stop all of this. I don't want another man. Okay, Mommy, not another man. Let's get back the one who left then. My own dad. Gosh, Emeka, how do I tell you this? He's not even your dad. Wait, what? Are you serious? So, who's my real dad? I don't think you should know that now. Not ever, actually. Just go to bed. For weeks, I tried asking Mom about my real dad, but she wouldn't budge. So one night, when she was asleep, I snuck into her room and started searching all around for some clue. Then I found an old photo in a drawer. It was a picture of Mom with a man, and next to it, there was a locket that said, "Forever yours, Richard." Now, I gotta find this Richard, because it was quite likely that he was my dad. I took the photo and the locket and left for my room. I didn't ask Mom again. I'd just have to find Dad myself when I was older. I decided to put my head down and focus on studies. And in the 8th grade, I got a scholarship to study in a fancy private school in town for free. That was awesome. I sat in my new class with so much excitement. But then the teacher asked me to make an introduction speech in front of the class. I hated public speaking. My hands started shivering when suddenly a boy held my hand. Hey, chill. You somehow remind me of my dad. He always says it's okay to be afraid. You know what I did on my first day? Just peed my pants. Go, say anything. I'm gonna clap for you anyway. Wow, that was the sweetest thing I'd ever heard. With that, I made my speech really well, and everyone clapped, but only after him. His name was Justin, and I felt some instant connection with him. And we sat together and shared lunch that day. We became friends and only got closer over the years. Also, he said he didn't have a mom, but was really close to his dad. And then once at the parent-teachers meeting, Justin took me to the cafeteria to meet him. When I saw him, I noticed he had flaming red hair, just like me. But the shocking part was, he was the guy from Mom's album, and his name was Richard. Could he be my real dad? This was unbelievable. He left soon after, but I couldn't get him off my mind. As I saw him leaving, Mom walked in and they almost bumped into each other. And then they started talking like old pals. They knew each other. This confirmed it. So Justin's dad was totally my real dad? I knew Mom wasn't going to tell me anything. I had to see Justin's dad again and try to find out the truth. Just when I was thinking how I'd get myself an invitation to Justin's house, I saw him coming out of the basketball stadium with bruises on his knees, and I suddenly had an idea. Hey, Justin, I think you're hurt. Please, let me walk you home? He said he was perfectly fine, but he invited me over for dinner that evening anyway. Now, I was so excited to meet my dad. The moment I reached his place, though, Justin said his dad was out of town on business for a week. Oh, no. He then took my hand and led me to the dining hall. And I was in shock. There was slow music, candlelights, and flowers. Oh no, this sure wasn't right. I was about to drop his hand, but then he pulled me closer and we started dancing. Oh my God, this had to stop. But then he came forward to kiss me and I screamed, No, we can't do this. You're my brother. Wait, what? If you don't like me, just say that. You don't have to call me your brother. I don't hate you, but I can't like you either, because you probably are my brother. I explained everything that was running in my head about his dad and my mom, and he looked like he was gonna be sick. Yeah, maybe that's why you both are similar in a few ways. But how can you be sure with just a photo? We need solid proof. That was right. The one thing that would really help would be a DNA test. We looked around for his dad's comb so we could get a few strands of his hair, but none of his combs were there. Maybe he took them with him on the trip? After hours of searching, we were unable to find a single strand of Dad's hair. So for now, I had only one option: to confront Mom. But when I got home, a bigger shock was waiting for me. Mom had left a note saying she was going abroad on a sudden trip for a week. Her too? This made my doubts about Justin's dad and her even heavier. I called Justin and told him the news, and he said he was coming over. We talked about our parents for a while and then started watching a movie together. Titanic was the only one playing. I made sure to get the popcorn tub between us while we sat on the sofa, but sometime later, the popcorn was gone, and I realized we were somehow sitting very close to each other now. And when Jack kissed Rose, Justin looked at me with the cutest puppy eyes. Oh no, this wasn't happening. I closed my eyes and started chanting, "Brother, brother, brother." Ew, heck no. He jumped up from the sofa and left. This was getting embarrassing for both of us. We had to set boundaries if we were going to hang out together. The next day, before I went to meet Justin, I bought some customized t-shirts for both Justin and me. His shirt said, "Amica's brother," and mine said, "I am Amica." Better always wear this, so we don't confuse our emotions. He didn't look that happy, but wore it anyway. That evening, as I was cooking dinner, the doorbell rang. I opened the door and saw a man outside who said he was looking for my mom. When I asked him his name, he said it was Richard. Gosh, Mom, another Richard? I wanted to get some more details, so I invited him in. Hey, listen, Mr. Richard, you might want to sit down for this. You see, the thing is, it's quite possible that I'm your daughter. You're probably my dad. He leapt up like he had an electric shock. What? My daughter? No, it can't be. And with that, he pushed me aside and ran out like crazy. I ran after him shouting, "Hey, wait, I'm not crazy. I'm pretty great once you get to know me. Just stop, Dad." He didn't, but at least I managed to get his car's license plate. I told Justin about this, and he was even more eager than me to find out about this new Richard. So it's possible he could be your dad too then? If yes, then we're not siblings. That's amazing. I'm gonna pray for that now. Justin and I worked hard to trace this new Richard and finally got his address. We went up to his house that evening and sneaked in. We were looking around for clues in the master bedroom when suddenly we heard footsteps outside. I quickly pulled Justin into a small closet. God, how long do you think we'll have to hide in here? I'm sorry to drag you into this. I don't mind doing anything for you, Amica. Also, your hair smells really nice. Justin, would you cut it out? You could be my frickin' brother. Just then the closet door opened, and Richard was staring at us in shock as we stepped out. And then he saw our t-shirts and nearly fainted. Oh my God, are you two twins? This is a nightmare. You have to leave right now. If my family finds out about you, they'll kill me. Oh, so you have another family, huh? But you abandoned me, Dad. Shush, don't call me that. They'll hear you. Dad, Daddy! He shushed me again. Don't shush me like I'm a kid. I'm 15 and I deserve to know the truth. Oh, thank God. You're 15? I left your mom way before that, so you can't be my kid. I only came to your house the other day because I found an old diary of your mom's and I wanted to return it. But then you called me Dad and I freaked out. But I am so relieved now. And he started doing a happy dance. Seriously? So it was back to Justin's dad again? We walked back home to my place in silence, feeling upset. As we sat down for dinner, the door lock turned and Mom let herself in. Finally! And right behind her was Justin's dad. Dad? So we were right about you guys? But wait, there was another man who stepped in just then, and Mom took his hand. Mom, I am so sick of this. Now don't tell me you brought another Richard. Yes, but how did you know? If you don't tell me who's my real dad right now, I'm gonna run away. Me too. Calm down, darling. Let me tell you everything. And finally, she did. Turns out, the new guy who Mom had brought was my real dad. He'd been at war when I was born, and then he'd gone missing. So Mom remarried after some time and kept the truth about my real dad from me. But what about Justin's dad? I saw him with you in a photo, and there was a locket too. Isn't he your Richard forever? No, Justin's dad is just my college friend. The three of us studied together. He heard your real dad had been found, and we went together to get him. This is my Richard forever. Oh my God! I'd finally found my real dad now. I looked at him awestruck, and he came forward and hugged me tight. I then turned around and saw someone looking even happier than me. Justin? I think you can take that t-shirt off now. I went near him.